So, um, along the lines, talking about improving throwing accuracy in lacrosse goalies. Okay, so one of the things that kind of drives me nuts is, and one thing I'm critical about the game of lacrosse about is that we have examples in other sports of athletes doing similar things better than lacrosse goalies do. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why I argue that we haven't seen the best lacrosse goalies play this position yet, because I believe that you can look at other athletes in other sports and go, you know what, if I take that athlete out of that sport, put him in lacrosse and teach him the technical aspect of lacrosse, he'll be better. Right. And so one of the ways, there's two sports to look at for throwing accuracy. One is baseball, obviously. The other one is football quarterbacks. Okay. So, these are two sports, obviously baseball and football, where millions of dollars are spent on that sport, right? Every single year, millions and millions of dollars. And the thing is that there's also, with that, there's millions and millions of research dollars to science, and where they pick apart, like, technique, and they pick apart velocities and accuracy and all sorts of stuff. And in baseball, they've got pitchers using, like, doctoring up their fingers, so they have better grip on the ball, things like that. There's a big controversy last year about that, which is kind of cool to watch. If you don't know about that, just Google, like, doctored pitching in baseball 2021. um so the idea, though, is that when you look at those two sports, there's some things that we can pick up from those two sports that those athletes do very, very well that lacrosse goalies typically don't do well. Now, as a goalie, one thing that happens after you make a save is it's very easy to get excited, right? It's very easy to just, we've all seen a goalie make a big save, and they've got, like, this crazy excited cradle, and they go to make a pass, and the pass is, like, hopelessly inaccurate, because there's no real uh, emphasis on technique when a goalie goes to make the save. Now, or goes to make the throw. So, to use an example, for those of you guys that watch, like, NFL football at all, and if you don't, I encourage you to kind of Google some videos about quarterback, quarterback training, quarterback throwing technique, things like that. But the idea is that, you have a quarterback like a Tom Brady, all right? Which, interesting thing about Tom Brady is, when he got drafted into the NFL, he wasn't very mobile. He didn't run. So he's what's called a pocket passer. And what that means is that when they hike the ball to the quarterback, that all the linemen, the big strong guys on the line, are trying to protect him, and they're trying to create what's called a pocket. And that's an area where he can just stand and throw. And this is what I'm talking about today, is that quarterback will set their feet, they will have the ball, like, ready to release, and then they will step directly to their target and throw overhand. Boom, nice and tidy, nice and accurate. Okay. So that's what's called a pocket passer. Then you have a quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes, right? And every year, every couple years, there's a new quarterback that comes in who's tremendously athletic, meaning they can run, they can move. And so what a quarterback is meant to do is, a quarterback looks at their reads. It's called their reads, or their progression. So on every play, a quarterback takes the ball from the center, and then has, like, one, two, three options with which to kind of do. So he'll look, like, he'll look over here, and then he'll look over there, and then he'll look way down there, and then if not, he'll give it over here, like that sort of thing. Those are reads, and lacrosse goalies have those same reads, but they're rarely taught those reads. Okay. And so, for my Lacrosse Goal University members, in our in our clearing fundamentals section, I go through that a lot. But the idea that I just want to stress here is that the pocket passer is, and lacrosse goalies are basically standing in a built pocket, right? Like, we're standing in a crease. That's our pocket. Nobody can touch us for 4 seconds. Okay. And so the idea here is that, in the NFL, when we get these mobile quarterbacks, they're able to sprint and run, but when they run, a lot of times they run, and they run for a first down. So once they pass the line, where the ball was hiked from, they can't pass it after that. Whereas lacrosse goalie, like we can run and pass from wherever. What happens a lot of times in football is that those quarterbacks who pass on the run, they are not accurate. Just like a pitcher can in baseball can throw like a 98-mile-an-hour fastball and to like a tiny little spot in the strike zone, yet a uh, like a shortstop who runs in and catches a ball up on the fly and has to throw kind of like sidearm to first base before the batter gets there, can sail the ball whenever. It takes a ton of accuracy. What lacrosse goalies do, okay, what lacrosse goalies do a lot is they throw with very poor set mechanics. Okay. And there's no reason for it. You see a lot of goalies stand flat footed, which means like both feet are planted in the ground, their toes are facing wherever, and the goalie will just, huck it. When I do goalie audits, every month for my goalies that are part of Lacrosse Goalie University, I see this a lot. I see goalies making really bad passes because they're throwing flat-footed, they're throwing like off their back foot, and especially in football, this is always picked apart. Like a quarterback who throws off their back foot usually throws high. A quarterback who's throwing on the run tends to hook it, throw it in the ground. There's some tendencies there. So for lacrosse goalies, the thing to focus on, and for the coaches out there, and for the parents listening that work with goalies, the idea is this: is one, the the goalie needs to have a level of strength where they can cradle with that stick up here and basically make fake passes. And this is something that most goalies never spend any time working on, is right. They make a save in practice. Their hands are choked up on the stick. They might make a half cradle and they'll just throw it back at the coach, or they'll make a save. They'll get the ball in their stick and they'll just kind of like bring it up and toss it. Uh, there are opportunities there for a goalie to get a fake pass in, get it like an overhand fake, do it like toe drag, whatever. But really feeling where that ball is in the mesh in their pocket is really vitally important. Okay. So from there, we want a goalie to be strong enough to be able to make their reads. Okay. Now in the men's game, the boys' game, we're looking usually right back where the shot came from. Then we're looking far side, depending on your team. Sometimes far side is the first look if you've actually coached this into your team. But then afterwards, after that, like a goal is usually kind of stepping out the back of the cage, and then you're doing your second, your kind of your secondary clear, um, or more of a set clear. But the thing to understand is that when we look at those first two reads, within that pass, there are multiple trajectories we want to have at our disposal, right? And a lot of goalies, they have one clear because the pocket in their stick is so bagged out. They have one tempo with that ball. Like it takes the ball a certain amount of time to get a stick every single time, and the ball takes the same trajectory over and over and over again. That's not cool, right? And that's not what's really disappointing from a lacrosse coaching perspective for me is when I get goalies who join Lacrosse Goalie University and I work with them and I see that and I realize that they've only ever been coached or they've never been coached on how to throw different types of balls. When you have a um, set of mechanics where that front foot, you're stepping into the ball, and that front foot is going towards the target, and the stick is coming right over the top. And a nice little technique that I learned, actually, I learned it from tennis. When you take a tennis racket and you go like you wind up, you basically think of the butt end of the racket as a camera, and I think of that with a goalie stick, like or a lacrosse stick, that the butt end is a camera, and you're taking a picture of your target. And so from there, that's when you're releasing the ball, right? And we want to come right over the top. We want to come straight over the top because if I'm trying to hit a midi going up the field, especially for the girls, if I can come straight over the top, then that I at least know the ball is going in this line. right? In this line. If I throw it any sort of like an angle at 3/4 or sidearm, I can spray the ball all over the field. Okay. So really like taking the time, and we're not talking it's the same amount of time, but the idea is that we've set our feet, we've gotten our basically our core engaged, we're coming through our hips, the stick's coming right over the top. That ball is now going to come out with a lot more velocity because we've used really good mechanics, right? Physically we've used mechanics. And a lot of goalies, they know a time when they finally made a pass and it was like a really easy pass. Like they just used good mechanics and the ball came out and it went way further than they'd ever thrown it before. Like every goalie kind of has that memory. Now to take it to the next level, the thing to understand is that those NFL quarterbacks, like as an example, they need multiple like velocities, they need multiple arcs. Sometimes they need short, quick outs. Other times they need like stuff that has a little bit of air under it. And other times they're throwing a ball and they're dropping it in to like a wide receiver, into the back end of the end zone, right? That only they can catch. Lacrosse goalies are rarely taught how to do that, right? Lacrosse goalies are rarely taught how to do that because they're usually only kept in the crease and given a simple warm up and that's it. And then they wait. And while the other team's working on like extra man offense and the D are off doing long passing, the goalies are just kind of like getting shot on. The goalies should be working in line drills. The goalies should be working, in fast breaks, taking a turn as a midi coming in on a fast break, right? On offense, right? Not defense, right? Because then they have that experience. They understand like, okay, now I got to make this sort of pass. And this is what the ball does in my stick. And we develop that level of understanding because I see this even in the college game where goalies can't do that. They make the same lame outlet passing. And it's like college coaches have forgotten how to even like utilize it, right? And it comes from practice. When the goalie makes a save, it's like the last time. It's like, oh, the play's over. Goalie made the save. Trent Yelton, I see you, buddy. It's like, Trent made the save. Okay, done. Trent, give it to the middies. Now it's like, no. Your goalie should be, hitting the kid in the back of the line at midfield waiting for the next reps to go. Like that's the creativity you need, because in a game your goalie, she might make a save and then there's a midi breaking up the backside of the field, right? Like because they're really good friends off the field, and the goalie goes there and he goes, okay, listen, like if I make a save and you're on the backside, like most likely you're the girl who's like playing offense isn't paying attention, so go just clear and I'll look for you. And then she looks and now her friend's busting up field and now she's got to make a big tall looping pass into her stick, right, so that she gets it, and then there's a fast break. If she's never practiced that or never been like given that as an option, she's never going to do it in a game. And then I just see this with every goalie audit I do. I see tons of opportunity wasted where you have a goalie who can make a pass and can make good stuff that that it's underutilized because the coaches just don't even think to look for it, and that's a shame. So that's where the goalies I work with, like we coach it into them, and then all of a sudden a goalie, like a coach is like, "Holy shit, where'd that come from? I didn't know she could do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, here we go." Right. So it's really important to understand that. So what I want you to understand, hey O'Brien's in situ, that's you. What I want you to understand is that when you want to when you Kid Marty, I see it. I'll get to that in a second here. That's a good question. We want to teach our goalies, right, first to understand how to use the pocket, right? And our pocket is the crease, okay? And so what we want is we want to be seeing, what the read is, like where are we going to pass the ball? And then we want to turn the body. We want to step directly, like straight ahead with our front foot. Now the toe doesn't have to point like directly at the target. It can be a little off, like 10-15 degrees. It doesn't have to be like a freaking arrow. Some coaches coach that and I'm like, I just don't think that's necessary. But the idea is that from there we're going to basically push off that back foot. We're going to rock forward on our hips, like into that front foot, like a pitcher would in baseball, right? Make it a good throw, or quarterback. You know, our lacrosse goalie needs to do that same thing. We want that stick to come right over the top, okay? Right over the top, especially if as you're first teaching this, you want it right over the top. You want to drill that in, right? As your goalie gets better, they're going to be able to have a little bit of flexibility. I mean, heck, you know, we've all seen a goalie, you know, in a crease, attackman right in their face. And if a goalie is able to make a sidearm pass, like, or like even like underhand around that kid up to a breaking midi, we want those options, but those will come. All right. But for now, we want to come, you know, take a picture of the target with the bottom end, come right over the top with that top hand, right? Let that stick go nice and long. That ball is going to come out right in the angle where that stick is going, whatever direction that stick is pointing. That's where the ball is going to come out. It might come out high, it might go long, it might go short, but at least we know it's going there. So we want to start with that, right? And then if they look at the first read and it's not there, we want them to set their feet, go to the second read. Okay. Now, when a goalie is out of the cage, now we can still do those things. What's always fascinating to me is like when you see players, really good offensive players, I'm talking short sticks here, like, you know, midfielders or offensive attack, things like that. When they pass, they turn they twist. It's called disassociation. Like the shoulders twist without the hips, right? So the hips are running in a straight line. That shoulder turns, but that stick mechanic is actually the same thing. It's the same. Stick comes right over the top. Then you have really good accuracy. Where players get into trouble is when their stick comes out sideways, right? Comes out at an angle, or I'm looking straight at you, but I'm trying to pass to a guy over here, and I huck it this way. All bets are off. All right. So you really want to understand. You know, that if we can maintain that nice vertical passing motion, that you're going to have a lot more success, right? Especially to start. Okay. Outside of that, it's repetition, repetition, repetition. Okay. Really good athletes with a stick understand, you know, how to use the stick in their hand. They could feel that ball in the mesh. You could tell when the ball is like just slightly off center, and then they'll modify things as they come around. That comes from repetition, repetition, repetition. And you could do that in your bedroom. Literally, you can do that in your bedroom. Okay. So really keep that in mind. So thanks, Bob. Really appreciate that. I always appreciate those comments. Thanks, Bob. The last thing, I got a question here on Instagram from Marty. Marty asked a question: what's a good way to clear the ball if no one is moving? So Marty, I'm going to assume you're a boy. Okay. Empty Cash, if you got a question, just go ahead and post it. Okay. Charlie Lord, I see you, buddy. But the idea here is that there is no good way to clear the ball if no one is moving. So Marty, what that is I've got a video on Facebook. It's been up since like 2010, I think. But it's an easy clear for most lacrosse goalies. Go watch that video. Okay, go watch that video. It's me with no beard, and I'm kind of chubby. I'm still bald. But the point is that if you have to draw and dump. Like, you have to draw an opposing team's player for you to pass to an open player. If you're not drawing anybody, go. Right? But it sounds to me like your team probably isn't like ready for that. Right? They're not teaching that. And so you've got to understand. That your job is not to pass to somebody it's what the girls, to be honest, the girls struggle with the most, is because a goalie can't score and teams don't know how to utilize a goalie. The goalie is forced to try to pass to somebody, and there's no real plan. Well, that's harder than, Tom Brady doesn't even do that for the Buccaneers, right? Like, there's a plan for this. So Marty, for you, the thing to understand is, like, if nobody is coming to you, meaning no attack and no middies, then, and if you're a girl, by the way, please let me know. Okay. But if nobody's coming to you, you just keep going downfield. You go into the offensive zone. Someone's got to be midi back for you. You got to, like, that's what's supposed to happen there. All right. That's what's supposed to happen there. So I hope that answers your question, because the job is not for you to all of a sudden find a way to sneak it into some dude with no who's not open. Okay, that takes a ton of skill that most likely you don't have. Um, um, Anne, I see your question. I'll get to you in a second. Empty cash question for you. What are some ways to work on clearing by yourself? Great question. So the best way, Cash, is to get a tennis ball, right? And first things first, like if you have no place to go, right? Like you're stuck in your room. Let's just start there. You're stuck in your room and you've got nothing. You can't do anything um, other than like stand with your feet planted on the ground. What I would do is I would tell you to get a lacrosse ball, get your stick, plant your feet like pick a spot on your wall. Maybe it's like your mirror, um, or it's like a poster, whatever. Picture that as your target, and you're gonna fake pass to that. You're literally gonna step off your back foot. You're gonna lean forward your front foot, and you can do this barefoot. You can do it in your underwear. Like I don't care. The idea is like you're just gonna do a fake pass to that spot, and then you're gonna come back and you do a fake pass to that spot. And I challenge you to do 20 of those. And what's gonna happen is you'll feel like, oh wow, okay, I feel my foot, it's a little sore, like, or maybe whatever. The next day you're like, oh wait, I feel my foot's a little sore. Oh, that knee, that front knee is like a little, like I feel like I worked it a little bit. Like, okay. Or maybe you feel it like in your core, right? So what you're gonna do, because it takes a lot of momentum, takes a lot of energy to move that stick and then come back with it, right? So that's really important to understand. All right. And then and then do the other hand, right? Work the other hand, same thing. And then work on switching hands. And the reason why I have you switch hands, which goalies don't do a lot, is because the getting the stick, what we're doing is we're training the whole hand. A lot of goalies that are kind of new and young, they grip the stick like they're choking that thing, and their hand never moves off the stick. I've even seen goalies, like when the play's down the other end of the field, they're standing there with like their arms straight and their hands are still on the shaft. I don't want you to be like that. I want you to get used to like getting that bottom hand off the stick, right? And then pointing telling your teammates where to go, and then grabbing the stick again, and then switching hands. And one of the best ways to do that is what I call like putting away the sword. It's like you're going to take that top hand, you take the stick, ball or not, slide the bottom hand up, top hand down, cradle, switch, and that's going to work your hands, and you're going to feel the ball on the stick. You're going to you feel the stick in your hands, and you're going to be trained. You're going to strengthen your fingers. So that's really important. So that's if you're like totally stuck with nothing, like you can't throw a ball, right? You can't like release a ball. You can still at least have a stick, whether it's a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball in your stick. You still get benefit from that. And literally put your AirPods in, put in some music, put in like a playlist of like 3 songs, and just be creative, right? Be creative, but just work repetition. Like do a set of 10 or 15, and then switch and do another set of 10. I want you to get that experience, that all those repetitions, so you really wire that into your brain and how that feels, right? Don't do like one over here and one over there and then another one of these and then something like that. No, it's like do 15 like fake passes to that one spot, 15 fake passes to that other spot. Okay, now if you can throw the ball somewhere, like you got a garage. For me, when my parents left the house, like when they had stuff to do, I would turn on a Bruins game in the kitchen. I would get a tennis ball on my goalie stick, and I would shoot like underhand shots at the kitchen cabinets, which, full disclosure, were like solid pine. Okay, they're not like MDF, so don't do this at your house if you don't have that. Okay, but the point is that you need repetitions. So if you're totally by yourself and you've got like a garage, at least a garage to like distance to throw in, get a tennis ball and like just get a bunch of tennis balls, pick it up, cradle, throw it a spot, and don't worry about like catching it right back real quick, especially if it's like ruining your follow through, things like that. Just get that full repetition in to feel that idea of throwing. Okay, that's really going to help you. Okay. And I would work both hands. I would work both hands because and work on like cradling and dodging and all that stuff. Like that's really gonna help you. Okay, really gonna help you. All right. Um, So I hope that answers your question. Okay, that's really good. And Patrick Francis writes, my daughter, my daughter's clear can be the most painful thing to watch. Yeah, when you get her fingers stronger, then things will get better. Okay. Anne writes, any advice on how to break the bad habit of the angle, like throwing at an angle? My goalie thinks he is more above the head than he is. He is more at the shoulder. Um, so one way to do that, a great drill for that, Anne, is to there's a couple ways, but the bottom line here is you've got to put something to obstruct him on his stick side. So whether that's a wall, right? Whether that's a wall and you move him close to the wall and say not crazy close, but just close enough, right? Where he can't throw sidearm. The other one is you put him on the side of the cage. So one thing I do with goalies is like if we're working on a field and they have that problem and we've got a net, so I'll say, okay, let's say it's a right-handed goalie. And I'll shoot on them. And when they make the save, just for the purpose of this drill, I'll say, I want you to come on the left side of the cage. And I'll put like a cone down if I need to, or something to on their left side. So they kind of have to throw in a channel, and the right side of that channel where their stick is is the post. So if they throw sidearm, they're going to hit that thing, right? They're going to go hit that thing. So if you're on a building, like let's say you're going to use like the side of the gym or the side of the house, the person receiving the ball or the thing receiving the ball has to also be just off the house. So let's say you've got a 3-foot channel on the side of the house. He can't throw sidearm because he's going to hit the house. So he throws overhand. Well, wherever he's throwing, it's not like he's throwing, away from the house, because that's weird. He's throwing in a 3-foot window on the other end of the house. Does that make sense? Or the building, right? I hope that makes sense. Okay. But you need something to just obstruct him to wire that in, because right now he doesn't have that reference point. And so you need to have some sort of an obstruction there. It could be a tree, could be a van, whatever, could be a post, could be a soccer goal, could be a baseball batting cage. You just need something there that's going to obstruct him so that he has to come from here and he can't go from there. Okay. Make sense? All right. There you go. All right, cool. Good stuff. And that translates well into Swedish, by the way, that drill. Just want you to know. Think of bandy ball. Do you guys play bandy ball in Sweden? Yeah. Bandy ball is a Swedish thing too, right? Norwegian, Russian, Swedish. Sean Cotty writes, can also set up 2 nets front to front to form the channel and have them pass through the gap. That's a good one. Yep, that's true. Yeah, if you've got that space to do that, yeah, that totally works. Yeah, there's just you're only limited by your creativity on that one. You're just trying to obstruct that arm. Okay, great question. Okay, all right. And I'm gonna do a video on bandy ball goalies at some point. I totally forgot about bandy ball goalies until I got a video on my TikTok this week. All right, so good stuff. All right, guys, thanks for watching and thanks for listening wherever you are. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like this, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. When you're ready, head on over to lacrossegoalieuniversity.com/coaching so I can work with you and your goalie. And while you're at it, check out athletespecific.com to learn more about mental performance and high performance. You may not know this, but I work with athletes in a variety of sports. Lacrosse is my love, but man, I love athletes and the families who support them. So head on over to athletespecific.com, check it out. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.